Hiring the wrong property manager can quietly destroy your investment from the inside out. You've done the hard part, bought the property, secured the financing, built your plan, but now it's time to protect it by partnering with the right property manager. This is the person or company who will be your eyes, ears, and voice when you're not around. Choose wrong, and you'll be dealing with legal issues, bad tenants, or cash flow loss. Choose right, and it's the difference between peace of mind and financial chaos. When I was a licensed realtor with Century 21, I handed my entire rental portfolio, everything I had, to a local property management company. Within 3 short months, I lost $20,000. Now that wasn't a miscalculation. It was a failure in oversight, poor tenant placement, lack of approvals for maintenance, zero communication. I trusted blindly. I pulled everything back, got my properties under control, and vowed never to make that mistake again. It's actually what inspired me to eventually build Upper Edge Property Management. So if you're listening, don't do what I did. Ask the questions. Build the right relationships. Vet your partners like your wealth depends on it, because it does. So I think I'm going to go through, I like lists. Let's go through 10 questions to ask your property manager. Okay, 10 questions to ask your property manager. Question number 1, are you licensed to manage properties in this province or state? Now, licensing is that foundation of professionalism in property management, no different than in any other professional designation. So you should be asking, are you licensed with the province or state of that real estate board or whomever is responsible for that regulatory body? Okay, you should be asking, can you provide your brokerage or manager's license number or proof of certification? And are your staff licensed individually? Now, that last part, licensed individually, here in Manitoba, they just passed the new Real Estate Services Act, at least at the time of this recording. And certain aspects of that act stipulate that staff of a property management company, depending what functions they're doing, might have to be licensed. So for example, somebody who is maybe the receptionist at the front of the office doesn't have to be licensed. The person who's showing the property and maybe negotiating leases or collecting rent and things like that does have to be licensed. Okay. You should be asking them, do you follow the guidelines of the Real Estate Services Act or whatever your local equivalent is in your state or province? Okay. Question number 2, do you maintain a trust account for client funds? Now, a trust account is where rent deposits and owner funds should be kept, not mixed with the company operating cash. So you should be asking, is your trust account audited? Now, I know here again in my province in Manitoba, you need to have a trust account if you're licensed. It's actually a requirement. And that trust account has to be audited by a chartered accountant every single year. There's a report that has to be signed off. There's a deadline by which it has to be submitted to our regulatory body, which in Manitoba is the Manitoba Securities Commission. And I'm quite certain in every province or state, there's going to be an equivalent. So you want to ask them, is your trust account audited regularly? Ask them, who is authorized to handle funds within your organization? Is it the founder? Is it the president or CEO? Is it a finance assistant? Is it the receptionist? Who is handling all of that money? Is there a risk that you are going to have your rent stolen by, some employee in that property management company? You should be asking, can I request a monthly trust statement showing income and expenses? Okay. Do you have any kind of owner portal where you can log in and run the same statements? You shouldn't have to rely on a year-to-date statement that's sent out once a year, okay? You should be able to log in or at the very least be sent monthly trust statements. You want to ask, what is the process if there's a discrepancy or an overpayment? Who is your point of contact? What happens if there's any kind of discrepancy? How do you resolve that? Because you're talking about, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in these trust accounts. And again, that's assuming that your property manager has a trust account, which they should and have to by law. So do not go with a property manager who doesn't have a trust account. It probably means they're not licensed. Okay, next question. Number 3, are you bonded and insured? So this protects you if something goes wrong. Now, not all managers are properly covered. So you want to ask questions like, do you carry errors and omissions insurance? Are you bonded in case of theft or fraud by your staff? What is your general liability coverage? Have you ever made a claim underneath these policies? Asking that last question, have you ever made a claim, or have you ever been sued based on, and your claim has had to protect you, your insurance has had to protect you, will tell you not necessarily that it's a bad company, but that certainly something has happened to make a client or somebody put a claim against that company. Okay. Number 4, and this is a really good one. How long have you been in business and how did you get started? Now, I'm not saying that a startup isn't good, and I'm not saying that somebody who has that grind it all entrepreneurial spirit will not be able to make it work. But I'm sorry, experience does matter, and so does passion and focus. So you just want to ask that question. Passion and focus and experience in working for another company can make up that difference, but it's still not the same as running a business. It's still not the same as like what I have to do, 20 plus staff, dealing with middle managers, supervisors, a whole level of bureaucracy. All that has to filter down to the customer experience, which is what you're looking to vet. You want to ask, when was your company founded? What made you get into the property management space? How long has your company been in business? How has your company grown in the past 1 to 3 years? Do you specialize in working with investors or accidental landlords? And that's a good point. If you are a landlord who is wanting to purposefully grow your property, grow your portfolio, is that company going to be suited towards you, or do they mainly, manage like we do, a lot of accidental landlords, which is actually good because I would say that we as Upper Edge Property Management and accidental landlords is not a bad thing. It just means somebody who didn't plan on being a landlord. Maybe they were left a house in an estate, or, they couldn't sell their house, so decided to rent it out for a little bit until they could sell it. Or they just moved to their dream home and their original starter house became an investment. Nothing wrong with that, but they didn't go into it, going on bigger pockets, reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and things like that. So we really try to over-educate our landlords and our accidental landlords. So you want to make sure that your property management company has that type of attitude and mindset, okay? Number 5, how many properties or doors do you manage today? Now, size gives you insight into their systems, their volume, their capacity. You want to ask, how many single-family homes versus multifamily units do you manage? So if they say, oh, we manage 200 units, that sounds really, really good, but it could be 2 apartment blocks with 2 separate owners. Like here at the time of this recording, we manage 600 units for 350 separate owners. That's 350 separate operating statements, conversations, things that have to happen, maintenance conversations. It's a lot bigger than having a 600 unit portfolio with 6 100-unit apartment blocks where we're dealing with 6 family trusts or 6, ownership groups that don't need that much, communication and extra explanation for their operating statements because their accountant is really our main point of contact. Okay, so that's pretty important too. Next question within the subset, do you serve the neighborhoods where my investment is located, right? I mean, if they're completely on the other end of town and they're just trying to get you because you're in a different neighborhood, but they don't know the neighborhood, they don't know the market rents, that might not be a good fit. You want to ask, how many units does each property manager oversee? Super important. Now, the overall units, I would say that somebody who manages 100 to 200 units, it's probably going to be a smaller company. It could be the founder with a couple of helpers, a couple of assistants, and that's fine. But when they grow, they might not have the systems to expand properly. And all of a sudden your phone calls are being ignored because they're so busy, because the founder or that property management owner is the one that's actually going out and moving in people, showing properties, collecting rent, going to court. Those are stress points and breaking points of a growing company. You want to ask them, are you growing? Are you stable? Or are you downsizing? What is your trend? Number 6, how many staff do you have? And how is your team structured? So whether it's a 1-person show or a 30-person team, the key is coverage and communication. You want to ask, how many full-time staff do you employ? What happens when somebody goes on vacation or leaves the company? Who's the backup? Who will I speak to if I have a question? Do I get a dedicated property manager, or am I speaking with a team? Is there a call center? Will I be able to call in and get somebody? For example, in our property management company, all of our property managers, we guarantee that there is a 2-hour time period 2 1-hour time periods every single day where our investors can call and we guarantee that they will get answered. Okay, that phone call will get answered by a live property manager, their property manager. You also want to ask, do you outsource any services like rent collection or inspections? And that's important, because if it's a third-party company, will they have the care the same way that you would with your property? Because really, you are hiring a property manager to take care of your asset in the exact same fashion that you would. Number 7, do you operate from an office or are you fully remote? Now, this impacts how your property management company interacts with tenants, how they collect rent, and how they meet the owners. You want to ask, do tenants ever visit your office or pay rent or sign documents? Is your team hybrid, fully remote, or in office? And where is your physical office located? Does your company have a storefront or shared office setup? Now, I know that there's a lot of things happening now with a lot of hybrid, remote, a lot of property management companies here in North America are trying to move away from the bricks and mortar. My personal opinion is that property management, very similar to real estate and realtors, is a people-to-people business. It is built on relationships, and I don't think all problems can be solved on video. Okay, I don't think a drop box can be the only place that a tenant can go and drop off rent or a lease. I really believe, like, we have an office here in Winnipeg, and as we expand, we will always have a small office where somebody can come in when they have a problem, when they're frustrated, because you can get those face-to-face relationships, and it just makes things stronger. There's a little bit of trust there, and it's just easier to get through any kind of inevitable tensions that happen in property management. Okay. Number 8, super important. How is maintenance handled? Now, this is one of the most common places where miscommunication and surprise costs occur. Okay, so you want to ask, do you have in-house maintenance staff or do you use subcontractors? Now, this is pretty important. My personal view, and this is not, necessarily, I don't want to say it's wrong to have in-house maintenance staff, but in my personal view, if you do have an in-house maintenance staff, I think it's a conflict of interest, because my obligation then is not necessarily to my investors that I'm servicing. I also have to worry about self-serving, like making payroll. And if maintenance is kind of an up and down thing, okay, it's not steady unless you create steadiness through systems and preventative maintenance programs. But again, you're kind of creating revenue there, not necessarily for the benefit of your owners. So I never want to be in a position where I can't make payroll, or payroll is coming up and I'm looking at the revenue and I have a lot of people sitting around, and therefore I'm going to send them out and do maintenance. Well, how am I choosing what to do for maintenance? Am I going to go and caulk a bunch of bathtubs, tighten a bunch of door handles, perform some inspections that might not have to be needed, and then bill out all of my investors? So again, my personal opinion, take it for what it is. I think it's a conflict of interest. So that's why our company has about 80 to 90 relationships with subcontractors. Okay, another question on maintenance. How do you handle after hours or emergency calls? After hours or emergency calls. So are you giving a phone to an employee and they have to be sure that they're going to wake up when there's a fire or no heat? In Winnipeg here, Canada, -40. Okay, pipes are going to freeze in a few hours. Or do you have a dedicated call center? And if it's a call center, are they just answering the phone and then calling another staff member? Or do they have the capability to actually call out with the vendor list? Like with our company, our after hours call center is a specific emergency after hours call center. It's not a regular call center. They have all of our 80 sub-trades. They have a list of everybody that has said that they will attend within a 2-hour time period on emergencies. That's about a quarter of our list. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, kind of those types of things. Super important, okay? Here's another point on spending. Is there a threshold for pre-approved repairs or pre-approval on repairs? So, do they have to ask you every single time they go out? Are they allowed to spend $250, $500, $1,000? What is that threshold? Make sure you get that in writing. That will avoid a lot of unnecessary frustration on your part. Another question, will I receive original invoices or do you add a markup? So this is going back to that whole subcontractor versus my own employees if I were to have a maintenance department. Because if I have a maintenance department as a property management company, I can't provide original invoices. I guess they are, but they're in my company name because I have my staff paid at an hourly rate and I'm marking that up. And our company, again, because we use subcontractors, we're able to give and show and upload those original contractor invoices into the owner portal so that an owner who sees the $250 toilet replacement or toilet unclogging can actually go and download that invoice from Steve's Plumbing, see the technician's handwriting. So I think for me as an investor, I would want to be able to see original invoices and know what's going on. It's just transparency, and transparency creates trust. Number 9, almost done with the list. Can you walk me through your fee structure, including all possible fees? Now, you don't want surprises. I don't like surprises. You want transparency. So you want to ask things like, what are your management fees and what does it include? Do you charge extra for inspections, lease renewals, eviction coordination? Are there any onboarding or setup fees? Are tenant placement and advertising included or billed separately? Are there little administration fees, photocopying, courier, key cutting? I mean, there's just a ton of tiny little fees that, just be careful. When you see a low management fee that's lower than the competition, it's probably for a reason. You want to see that fine print. Okay, number 10, and pretty important because we work really hard on this one. What is your reputation and can I speak to current clients? Social proof is key, and so is their willingness to share it. So you want to ask things like, I guess you can check this out, but ask them if they know. What is your Google review rating and how many reviews do you have? Have you ever been part of a dispute or complaint with a licensing body? Now you can find this out by doing a simple search, but are they going to be forthcoming with it? Are they going to try to hide it? Can you provide the contact info of 1 or 2 clients that I can speak with? We're an open book. That's not a big deal. If you can't provide 2 clients that are willing to give you a good referral, I don't know that I'd want to do business with that company. Okay, another question. Are you active in any real estate investing or landlord associations? I would think you'd want them to be because then they're going to be well known in the industry. You're going to be able to check them out in other Facebook groups, other networking groups. They should have a good reputation and they should be willing to give back into the industry as well. So in summary, hiring a property manager isn't just checking a box. It's choosing a partner in your wealth journey, whether it's a small operator with hustle or a large firm with a polished team. What matters most is, do they align with your values, your needs, and your investment goals? So if you found this helpful, head to the link in the show notes to grab our free 7-step guide to buying your first rental property. It's packed with advice like this, and it's designed to help you purchase, manage, and scale your real estate portfolio the right way.